What's up, everybody? This is another Boys to Dads podcast. I'm excited to be here. I'm your host, Big Country.
And I'm Coach Barry. What's going on, world? What's popping?
Yep, we're back with another Boys to Dads podcast. We're on a little hiatus, taking care of a lot of things. And today's podcast subject, which I like, is called The Voices in Your Head. They'll screw you up. All right, and it's a good podcast to kind of lead into season 2. The first season we started off with something simple. You're never too old to follow your dreams. And this series is just more about like what happens to you as a man, as an adult, as a parent, right? I won't even say men. We're going to talk about it obviously because we're men. But it is what happens when the world has taken a hold of you and kind of force-fed you who you are.
Yes.
Right? And one of the things that I love to talk about is the feeling of, like, imposter syndrome, right? Like you're in a position, but you shouldn't be there. Like, everybody else around you is better, smarter, has more abilities than you, and we're going to get into that. But, the first thing I always like to do is tell everybody to like, listen, and follow this podcast show. Go add us on Instagram at boys, BOYZ, 2 dads, DADS podcast, PODCAST. Follow that on Instagram, or you can find us on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. We're on TikTok, but there's not a lot of content on there yet. I'm still waiting for my daughter to upload some stuff and take care of it. She's the social media expert in the family. We like to always hear people's feedback. If anybody wants to be a guest, reach out to us. You can reach out to the show at boys to dads podcast at gmail.com. Same way it's spelled. You'll find us on all the major podcasting networks. So give us feedback. Listen, please. We like those numbers going up. All right, but we also want to deliver good content. We made a couple changes. We're going to try to keep our show to a 40-minute podcast. If we go over or need to talk about more things, we'll add a part 2 to it, so that way you can kind of listen to it to work and home or during your break if you want to. So we're trying to slowly and surely develop a better version of it. Yes. We want to eventually move towards video too.
Yep.
But
one step at a time.
One step at a time. We want to grow organically, but we also want to grow the right way. Exactly. And not just do the things that everybody else does. Because following trends is great, but making one is even better.
Yep.
So let's get into this. The voices in your head will screw you up. Okay, we have a different version of that, but we want to kind of keep it PG-13. Okay.
Tell them how we even got to this subject.
Oh man, topic. Stress. The stress of being a parent, the stress of life, the stress of understanding that you're trying to obtain things and you're trying to work and do things the right way. So I'll give you a little 2-minute synopsis of what I'm going through. Okay, it's almost like I check in, but
yes.
This is real life, right?
Yep.
So probably after Christmas last year, I said, all right, I'm going to focus on paying down my debt, paying down my credit cards, paying down, right? So I did really good for about 6 months. June hit, my son graduated. All right. So that cost a little bit of money, throw a party, get all this stuff situated, also taking care of him, right? So I was like, all right, no vacation this summer for us. We're going to focus on this, A, B, and C. We'll do a couple of small things here or there. Then once his graduation party ended in the middle, end of July, my car started making a noise, like a helicopter. And I'm like, what the, right? At the same time, I applied for a high school position as a social studies teacher, and I got that. Okay, so you have all these different transitions, and at the same time, right, student loans are coming due. And at that same time, my son is going to start school, start college in a couple weeks, and so there's another expense. Okay, and all of a sudden I'm looking at it, and the money I spent, the money I worked hard for to pay off these bills, right, pay off a little bit, now I'm back exceeding where I was. And at the same time, I have to transition from, middle school teacher to high school teacher, which means I can't reuse some of the stuff that I decorate my classroom with. Some of the stuff that kids are more into in 8th grade, 9th through 11th, 12th grade. It's not the same.
Exactly.
So there's an expense right there. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, because I don't know if other people go through this in their life, but a lot of times the self-doubt comes in when, you're like, wait a minute, I want this. I went for it. I got it, but now I got to put more into it. And I ain't got more to put into it. And everybody wants to showcase themselves as being successful. But I know most people that are listening, most people in the United States and around the world, we're not millionaires and billionaires. We can't afford to take $100,000 out of our savings that none of us have anyways, and put it into something that we believe in.
Exactly.
So if you take on a new expense, for instance, you want to be a podcaster, you got to buy a mic, you got to do this, you got to do that. If you don't have extra income, that's income you're taking from something else. That's income you may be taking from your own children.
Yep.
But it's a dream, it's a goal of yours. You want to go for your dreams, you want to go for your goals. So you may have to save up a little bit, but it feels like, when you spend $300 here, that $300 could have gone to the light bill.
Yep.
Could have gone to oil. Could have gone to fix your car earlier than me.
Yep.
And not cost $600, may it cost $200. But all these things you put off to try to, my grandmother used to say, you rob Peter to pay Paul, right?
Yep.
So it's the idea that all this stuff is happening at once, and all of a sudden when that stress comes, when that feeling of the walls closing in. And a lot of times it is money, or it's the people in your life that need, but you need something, and you're not getting it. All those voices of the times you failed, all those voices of the people in your life that hated you, or put you're worthless, doubt in your mind. You can't do this.
Yep.
I told the story. I remember 9th grade. I was going to go out for the basketball team. I've always been a tall but chubby kid, right? And this one kid said to me, "Hey, you're too fat. You take the shirt off, coach isn't going to pick you." And I remember not going to my tryout because that kid said it. And I let that one person's view of me dictate my freshman year in high school of how other people viewed me. And I still go back to that, and it's that fight between, and then when you fail, sometimes you fail, sometimes you do things and you think it's the right thing to do, and you just fail. And there's nothing wrong with it. But every time you fail,
those voices come
back. So now you add all this together, and see, here's the thing that people don't tell you when you're growing up is that once you become a dad, once you become a parent, and I know women know this, there's a role switch that you have to have, and 90% of the things that you could do for yourself before, you can't do anymore for you because you're given your time and your experience and your
giving your whole life
to a little kid, and then whoever you had that baby with. And so all of a sudden it's like you forget about yourself. And so you have self-doubt, you have the imposter syndrome, that feeling like let's go to it just in case people don't know. So imposter syndrome, people who struggle with imposter syndrome believe that they are undeserving of their achievements and the high esteem in which they are, in fact, generally held. They feel that they aren't as competent or as intelligent as others might think, and that soon enough people will discover the truth about them. Those with imposter syndrome, which is still not an official diagnosis, but everybody knows, are often well accomplished. They may hold high office or have numerous academic degrees, but they still see themselves as that failure of a kid, or that failure of the trauma that they went through in their life, right? And so, we come to people today to talk about this because I think it's a good subject matter to start, is that how do we get from feeling like we don't deserve to feeling like, damn it, I do deserve it.
Yes.
And here's the problem. We're always taught to live with humility. And you and I were talking before the podcast, and I said, I wonder if sometimes I'm too humble.
Yeah.
And not enough of, damn it, I deserve it. I worked for it. I went through all this stuff. I should get this. And, it's crazy because I told you the same thing, I got two barbers, you and my other barber. And, I was talking to my other barber about how I was paying off all these bills and I can't buy nothing. And I put myself on this thing. So he goes, where's your room to grow? So you mean to tell me you want something so bad, you need a new laptop for your podcast because you put yourself on a budget and say you can't get a new laptop that's going to improve your podcast, or you can't get new headphones, or you can't do this, or you can't get a new car. Aren't you kind of denying yourself the ability to know that, like, yo, I deserve this? And because I deserve this and I made this purchase, I'm going to go out and work 10 times harder than I was working because I have to make sure I have the means to. You kind of hamstring yourself.
Sabotage yourself.
Yeah, and so, this conversation, it's kind of crazy because this conversation is basically self-esteem. What causes imposter syndrome? Personality traits largely drive imposter syndrome. People who struggle with self-efficacy, perfectionism, and neuroticism. Okay? Competitive environments can also lay the groundwork. So coming up from basketball and stuff, and when you fail and I'm not good enough, right? People may develop feelings of imposterism, faced intense pressure about academic achievement from their parents in childhood. Okay, or their athletic achievement. What triggers it? Anxiety, stress.
A failure, period, in my opinion.
Yeah, failure. Failure after a string of successes can also cause one to critique themselves and question their overall aptitude. Okay, so you have all this, women, right? When women went back into the workforce, here's something for women. When women went back into the workforce, they felt imposter syndrome, like they weren't supposed to be there. They were supposed to be home with their kids. I remember my mom saying that. Men and women of color, right? You work with all white people, and it's like, am I supposed to be here? I don't fit in. Right, all these things. So a lot of it also I'm reading up. It's on Psychology Today. If you guys want to go on the website and see it, a lot of it they talk about just like how social media, right? I can never be that good. All you hear about is like you look at these people that are making $50,000 a month on podcasts or on YouTube or like my son. I try to get him to tape the video games. Right, and put it on YouTube, and he's like, yeah, but I need to have like 20,000 views. So why you mean to tell me that you don't think of yourself highly enough that you can get 20,000 views?
Yep.
Right, so it's like that we're starting off already at like, I can't do that. This person's got 20 million followers, I got 80. Yeah, but those 80 people know me. Right, like I got 80 friends on this page. Our Instagram page has 80 followers.
But I know each one.
Each one of them
individually,
or I've talked to each one of them. Right? You could have 20 million followers, and you talk to 5 people on your page. So that 20 million followers, 18 million are bots. Congratulations, right? Like so. The voices in your head, your past comes to haunt you. The mistakes you made, because you were supposed to make those mistakes, and other people keep on throwing them in your face. Mistakes.
Yes. Oh, I hate those because even like last week, I told you what I went through with my son. And fathers and parents, I'm going to be honest with you about this. Everybody's going to go through this. And it's how you handle it is going to come out. This how you handle it is whether your relationship with your kids is going to grow stronger or it's going to be destroyed. And the thing is, every kid, I don't care who you are, at some point will confront their parents and say, you failed me as a parent. You failed me as a parent. And that's only from their perspective and their eyes. But when you have it in the back of your head, and I think that's why I did snap the way that I did at my son, because I had it back in my head, people telling me that I was a lousy father, or I'm not going to be a good father, or things of that nature. And one of the responses I made to my son was that, I've done everything in my power not to be that bad parent, not to provide you, able to provide you with the things that I didn't get growing up. So when that hit home, it's like all those things just played in the back of my head. And I just balled up into a shell and I snapped.
Listen, you go to a dark place when that shit happens.
I mean, you snap. And sometimes it's like when I look back on what happened between my son and me, one, it wasn't said out of he didn't love me, he didn't respect me. It came from a frustration where he was at in his life, everything. And why it hit me so hard is because the voices in my head from my past, the mistakes I've made and everything, that's what made it hurt even more so. But update, me and my son, we worked it out. We good now. We just had to get that off our chest. But I never looked at it from a